So tonight I wanted to try something different. Oftentimes on our game night, I make a big tower or a huge ruins, some kind of dungeon. I love using these dungeon tiles from Tower Rex, but a lot of times we have a struggle because my players are trying to get to something on one side of the battlefield or the other. And so people are moving around the table or trying to get different perspectives and angles. So I had the thought to try and use a Lazy Susan to allow me to spin the terrain around the table so my players can get to it from their side and still see things that are going on. This situation tonight is a ruins. We're playing in the Dragonbane campaign, the Misty Vale, and my players have just recently crashed an airship down, and there's a series of ruins nearby. They're trying to lure another airship to come into this area, and I think they actually want to try and take it over. I'm not positive, though, but I think that's the plan. So I was just going to build a tower, a ruins, like an old city that has essentially fallen into disarray. Inside this old city that has fallen into disarray, there is a large spider that has actually moved here recently. The spider is wounded, and the spider has a lot of minions that will be guarding it, but the spider isn't necessarily hostile. At least it's not hostile to the players. So in this situation, there's quite a few potential things that could go wrong or that could go right, depending on how my players interact. I like putting a lot of this scatter terrain into our terrain builds just to give my players options of things to do, things to interact with. It often helps fuel their imagination and like how they could use the environment to their advantage. So for tonight's game, my expectation is that my players will go to these ruins. But there is the potential that they don't. This is the spider, or at least this is going to be what I use for the spider. And I'll use a bunch of these Tyranids to make up the spider's crew of minions. My hope is that my players actually use this terrain to their advantage. I like making a lot of verticality. And in the case that this does turn into some kind of fight, I want there to be the potential for epic battles and people to be pushed off cliffs or something. So the Lazy Susan actually worked out really well. The clearance on some of this is just perfect. And now I hopefully have the ability to turn the table around to show my players who are sitting down on the couch the things that are going on the other side of the map. Anyways, this is our game set up for tonight. And I really like using these terrain pieces to try and create a story, a situation, so my players, when they get here, they can kind of uncover a mystery, and to me, it's fun because I'm kind of building out like a video game level, and then allowing my players to explore it and interact with it within a tabletop RPG. For me, it's very fun to build these things. I really enjoy it, and I think my players enjoy it just as much as I have a good time building it. The scatter terrain also helps me keep in mind various treasures and loot that might be hidden in these ruins. So I know there's going to be an airship, given the fact that my players said they want to try and get the airship out of the sky. Hopefully they can figure out how to call it down or do something and interact with it in this place. We'll see how it goes. I'll give an update later on this evening after our game's over. I think that's it. This is our ruins for the evening. I really have a lot of fun putting together these terrain builds and trying to think of all the different ways that my players might use the environment to their advantage. I never actually come up with what they end up doing, and usually my expectations are subverted. All right, I'll let you know how it goes later on. God bless you. Have a good night.